And does anyone wonder why? Would anyone want to go to Donald Trump's America right now as a tourist? Tourism to America has fallen off a cliff. It's down 40%.
A Vancouver woman who was detained in the U.S. and held behind bars for nearly 2 weeks for a visa issue is now back at home.
I can't even process what just happened because there was no heads up. Next thing you know, I'm taken and for 2 weeks haven't been told anything, moved in different cells, sleeping on cement, sleeping in different jail cells. Like, it just, nothing makes sense to me, and I'm still trying to process the entire situation.
Jasmine Mooney, a Vancouver entrepreneur, touched down at YVR shortly after midnight Saturday morning. Mooney was detained at the U.S.-Mexico border on March 3rd. The 35-year-old says she had a previous U.S. visa canceled, but did not think she'd have an issue when applying for another visa with a new job. A statement from U.S. Immigration and Customs last week said she was processed in accordance with President Trump's executive order that subjected all aliens in violation of U.S. immigration law to possible arrest.
The government of Canada just updated their U.S. travel advisory with a serious warning. On Friday, the government added a serious warning about entry and exit requirements for Canadians traveling to the U.S., stressing that U.S. border agents have significant discretion on if you meet those requirements, and said Canadians should expect scrutiny at ports of entry. The advisory says to comply in all interactions with border authorities, and if you are denied entry, you could be detained while awaiting deportation.
Should Australians be travelling to the US right now?
At the very least, I think Australians need to reconsider travelling to the United States. And there's been numerous reports, regardless of profession, which I think is the important thing, of people being detained, interrogated, their electronic devices searched for in particular online commentary, negative commentary about the Trump administration, and even in a number of cases, people being temporarily imprisoned at different locations in the United States. People from Europe being detained for 19 days in detention facilities. So what's really happening here is Border Force agents, I guess, have a, for lack of a better word, key performance indicator that they need to meet in terms of inspections. And so a lot of people, just based on the suspicion of their sexuality, are being questioned and interrogated as well. The Australian Consular Services cannot guarantee they'll be able to help you. So if you are detained and they do take your electronic devices off you, which they would, there's really no one that can help you.
Since President Trump took office, there have been incidents of tourists being held by ICE for weeks. Now, European countries making it clear, even if you do have a visa, you are not guaranteed entry to the U.S. Britain, Germany, Finland, and Denmark among the countries who have updated their travel advisories. The United Kingdom warning its citizens you may be liable to arrest or detention if you break the rules. Germany's Federal Foreign Office making its own updates to the travel advisories, saying travelers that even have a valid authorization permit or U.S. visa doesn't guarantee the right to enter the country, and if refused, there is no legal action to take against the decision. And Denmark telling its transgender citizens to contact the U.S. Embassy before traveling to the United States, the U.S. only recognizing two genders, male or female. A travel expert I spoke with says she's concerned about these travel warnings.
There are hundreds of thousands of Americans who work in the travel industry, so this could be very bad for the economy in general.
A woman in Washington who migrated to the U.S. more than 50 years ago has been detained in Tacoma for over a month. Her family says she was stopped by Custom and Border Protection when returning from a trip to the Philippines. They say Lulyn Dixon, who is 64 years old, is a lawful permanent resident of the United States. An immigration attorney telling the family there's a potential reason for her detainment, an embezzlement conviction in 2021.
It's been so long that it happened, and that was a mistake. She's been here over 50 plus years. Like, you would think that being a permanent resident is protected.
Now back to the travel warnings to the U.S. We reached out to the Department of Homeland Security asking what changes have been made to immigration policy, but we've yet to hear back. Steve, Natasha.
Have there ever been travel warnings against the U.S. before, or is this a first?
No, this is not a first, actually. There's been warnings about gun violence, but nothing of this magnitude. Remember, the Custom and Border agents do have the ability to deny you entry and not tell you why.
Germany and the UK have now issued travel advisories for the United States, and Canadian politicians are now urging Canadians to avoid travel to the United States if at all possible, and saying that people are being denied their rights through arbitrary detention. And this notably comes after Customs deported a French scientist for apparently not liking Trump, and also after a German green card holder who's lived here since 2007 was reportedly violently interrogated, stripped naked, and put in a cold shower at Boston Logan. Additionally, 2 other Germans were detained in other airports, and one was detained for 6 weeks and placed in solitary confinement. And it just seems like it gets worse and worse. There's so many stories. Another incident was when a Canadian woman was detained by ICE for 2 weeks in a cage because she had an error on her paperwork, with her reportedly shackled, thrown in a van, sent to Arizona, kept awake, and not allowed to contact a lawyer. Because the system's seemingly so broken, this woman reportedly had no recourse to get out of the ICE prisons until her family contacted the media. But they're also claiming there were hundreds of other women in the prisons and cells she was held in who have been stuck there for months with no way home, and the Trump administration won't give them due process, so they're just stuck there indefinitely. Then in another incident, a British woman reportedly was in the U.S., legally traveled to Canada, but upon entry, she was told she needed a different visa and to go back to the U.S. And then when she approached the U.S. border that she just crossed minutes earlier, they classified her as an illegal alien and detained her for 10 days. You also had reports a professional soccer player from Venezuela who coaches youth soccer and was in the U.S. legally was sent to El Salvador's prisons without due process because ICE allegedly mistook his Real Madrid tattoo for a gang tattoo, which if true, seems like yet another example of why having due process is a great thing. Right? Seemingly maybe why the founders found it so important that they made it the 5th Amendment. Follow to stay in the loop.
Germany has updated its travel advisory for the United States, following the recent detention of several German citizens at U.S. borders. Among the reported cases is that of Fabian Schmidt, a German national and U.S. green card holder who was detained at Boston's Logan Airport. Schmidt was subjected to a strip search and placed in a cold shower during an aggressive interrogation before being hospitalized, according to his mother. Similarly, German travelers Jessica Brosch and Lukas Silaf were detained at the U.S.-Mexico border, held for 2 weeks at a detention center in San Diego, and then deported in what they described as a traumatic experience. In response, the German Foreign Office has updated its advisory, reminding travelers that even with a valid U.S. visa of travel authorization, entry into the U.S. is not guaranteed, as the final decision lies with border officials. These incidents, along with similar experiences reported by travelers from other countries, including Canada, France, and the UK, are being seen as the evidence of immigration crackdown in the U.S. under the administration of President Donald Trump.
And does anyone wonder why? Would anyone want to go to Donald Trump's America right now as a tourist? You certainly wouldn't if you were Chinese or looked like you might be Chinese. You certainly wouldn't if you were a European. You certainly wouldn't if you have a point of view on Israel-Palestine, for example, because you can't even just leave your phone behind. They have taken AI readings on your social media habits, and you simply won't be allowed into the United States. So the 40% drop in tourism is going to harm the American economy very severely indeed. And this attitude of snarling belligerence, whether it's mild-mannered Denmark, pusillanimous Panama, or the mullahs in Iran, or the Arabs in the Levant, you are making enemies forever, and generational enemies forever for the United States. It's unnecessary, it's ugly, and it won't work.
Go ahead. Yes. I'm calling on you.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome.
Within the last few weeks, several countries have warned their citizens about travel to the U.S., and the Department of Commerce's own stats know that show that from a lot of countries, the number of visitors is falling. Does the White House have any message for people that might be reconsidering business or tourism travel to the U.S.?
Where did you see that report?
With the statistics coming from the Department of Commerce.
Said what? It's hard to hear you. Sorry.
that visitors from a lot of countries have fallen in the last 3 months?
I'd have to look at that report to comment on the merits of it. I think most people around the world recognize the United States of America is a great place to do business. It's a beautiful place to visit, and they should certainly come here because it's a much safer country than it was 4 years ago under the previous president.
In recent weeks, nations including Canada, Australia, Germany, and the UK have updated their travel advisories, cautioning citizens about increased scrutiny and potential detentions at US borders. These warnings stem from heightened border security measures, policy shifts affecting LGBTQ travelers, and reports of prolonged detentions of foreign nationals. The growing number of travel advisories against the US is a stark reminder of the evolving challenges in international travel. As policies shift and border scrutiny intensifies, it's crucial for travelers to stay informed and prepared. If you found this video insightful, please like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps us bring more critical updates to light. Just a quick note, full credit goes to the original creators of these videos. Thanks for watching, stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next one.